This call is being recorded.
Hello all, B.L. Carter here, affectionately known as Miss B. Hoping that you are doing well, working on your puzzle one piece at a time, and making life greater, or at least making plans to make life greater for you and yours. Wanted to talk to you all today about, I guess I would call close encounters. I've been asked multiple times to share certain experiences on a more specific and detailed level. And I hadn't, just for privacy, for not wanting to hurt or embarrass others. And then I had to, kind of come to terms myself with some stuff and kind of get my own clarity and understanding. When I began speaking out from a more experiential level, directly, that's, I guess, when you can say the direct attacks came to me by certain people. And if you've been watching or listening to any of my videos, then you pretty much have an idea where these attacks are coming from. But just to give a couple of specific incidents. There was a time I was at home and I was having a disagreement with my other half. And oddly, it was about, how much time was being spent in the church and everywhere else, and less in the home, and the impact that it was having on, our communication and the household. And this, of course, was after the church had been on their campaign to create havoc and bleed the resources and that sort of thing. But in this disagreement, I watched things go from words to action in 0.2, if you will. Mid-sentence, I remember being picked up and flung literally around the room, been flung into multiple walls. I remember being choked. And actually during this entire incident, it was multiple times, with the first choking. I remember feeling just not being able to breathe and seeing the room starting to get dark. And at that point, I stopped trying to fight because, I'm fighting a man and my punches aren't going anywhere anyways. It wasn't working. And so I stopped throwing punches. I stopped trying to break free and save my energy. Just, I guess survival mode kicked in. Some more flings around the room, etc., some more choking. And I finally, almost lost consciousness. And, somehow in those last moments, I remember I just drew upon everything that was in me. And I stared him straight in his eye. And it was at that moment I realized he wasn't himself. I knew the behavior had not occurred before, but just looking into his eye, I saw he wasn't himself. And spiritual took over. Something in me said, shut up the flesh, shut up your brain, shut up all of that, and submit, if you will. And so I submitted to, I have to say, my guardian angels, my ancestors, whomever it was that stepped in, because I allowed them to step in and speak. And as I'm losing consciousness, I see his eyes, and I said, and his eyes are like jet black. They're completely not normal. And I remember saying, if you think killing me is going to solve all the problems, and I am the cause of all your problems, then go ahead and kill me. I won't fight you. And in that moment, his eyes literally switched back to regular color. I kid you not. You see the videos on YouTube about how the supposed reptilians and demons and all these other creatures, how their eyes are flipping. His eyes literally flipped before mine. And I saw them switch back. That black went away and it went back to the regular brown. And he snapped out of what he was in. And he opened his hands. He didn't like drop his hands, but he let me go. And I guess in his realization of what happened, I guess he must have startled himself. But, in the aftermath of that, I had a gold necklace that had literally crumbled into pieces under the pressure of his hands around my neck. Red finger marks all around my neck, physical bruising. My kidney did take a hit in the process, my left kidney. Some back pain, some breathing issues, things like that. And so at that time, I chose to be strategic in my moves, knowing the type of people we deal with. And at that point, my children were still under 18. Any involvement with authorities could put my children in danger of being snatched up by CPS. So I had to be strategic in how I handle that. And once all those things were, taken care of, I proceeded to move toward an arrest. But in the meantime, before I could get those things taken care of, another incident occurred. This time, it was more words. Not as physical, but more words. We're having a disagreement, but because I witnessed, I experienced this thing, a week or so prior, I'm speaking very soft. Not like I'm talking to y'all now. I mean soft. Not yelling, not cussing, not fussing, not being argumentative, nothing that would exacerbate or rile up or cause this thing, whatever it was, to rise up as I'm, trying to position and put myself in place for what I need to do to protect my children in the long run. And he literally flipped. I heard a loud screech. It wasn't a man. It wasn't a woman. It wasn't even human. It was animal. It was creature. It was something, but it was a loud screech. And the room got dark. And I could literally, there was nothing, no physical, anything that I could see for causing the room to be dark. His hands were not on me, choking me to where my oxygen was leaving, but the room was dark, as if some entity had come into the room and was blocking out the light. And it was winged. It had wings. I won't call the name of. I did some time pouring the internet to see what sort of entity it might have been. And I did identify one that I believe it was. But during this time, I just began praying. I didn't know what else to do but to pray. And I called upon every auntie, every uncle, every God, every angel, every ancestor, you name it. I just called them in and said, go to work, do what you do. But the loud screech drew attention from everyone else in the home. And so they came running. And so it wasn't just me that saw it. And they saw the eyes. They saw the black in the eyes. They saw, as one of my daughters put it, something that wasn't human. She's like, that's not human. That's not him. Something's wrong. And then, over the course of things, when the eyes shifted back, she describes the shift of the eyes. So anyway, when that was ended, when that was ended, when I was up off the floor, I had bruises on my legs, a limp when I walked, back pain, but the police were escorting him out. So oddly, I consulted the church leaders because at this point, I wasn't a member, but he was still being dragged back in there and they wouldn't let him go. They were holding ties to him. So I contacted them. They supposedly have, the leaders supposedly had experience fighting demons and various entities, etc. Supposedly had been around the world helping to relieve people of demons. And so I just knew, okay, you know what? Put all our differences aside. We need to deal with this. Well, it was dismissed. I was told to pray and move on. I was told any demons that I thought I was imagining must have been my own personal demons, or that I was calling these demons up and using them. So I thought that was mighty strange. Actually, it was very, very strange. And being so closely involved, in the situation, having the direct experience, and not wanting my emotions and my experience of the situation to cloud my visions, I turned to other spiritual people and asked them to gauge, to intercede, to help me gather facts, information, etc., or pretty much to corroborate or disprove whatever I thought I was hearing, seeing, reading, etc. And I just wanted to make sure my being so close to the situation was not influencing what I was feeling about it. Every single one of those persons confirmed that this so-called church was behind it, and actually they were doing things to egg it on, to kind of bring it to this point. And I kind of struggled with that, more so because I was at a point where I knew there were some issues in the church, but I wasn't at a point to realize that a church or an alleged church would be that intentional in calling upon or interacting with this level of evil without due cause other than control, abuse, greed, that sort of stuff. And so it was just a matter of me coming to the knowledge that the level of evil that's out in the world is actually inside the churches as well. But the words some of those spiritual people used, and I'll share some of these words with you, were things like witchcraft, sorcery. When they said witchcraft, I'm like, okay, well, biblically, witchcraft is, anything that's used to manipulate someone to do something they otherwise wouldn't do. They went a step further to say sorcery. One person back on the East Coast called out of the clear blue. I didn't seek her out. She sought me out. And she said something very, very, very dark. Disappeared. But these other spiritual people, they said flat out evil. One said, the leaders should be in jail for some of the things that they're doing. And I'm kind of floored because, I've experienced some negativity and some evil in my life. But again, I'm at a point of having to realize that this is coming from a church. I was not at a point to know that this sort of evil would come out of a church. And also during this time, I have, friends and family or whatever from around the country were calling just to check on us, just calling just to check, calling to say, hey, people I hadn't talked to in a while. Several of them had, some concerns. They just wanted to make sure we were okay. They just, had a bad feeling, that sort of stuff. And so as I put all this together, I'm saying to myself, there's something to this. And if those of you have not figured out yet, I tend not to take immediate action on stuff. I try to make sure I've removed my emotions out of it and be thoughtful and strategic in the stuff that I do. And that doesn't say I'm always successful with it, but that says that's what I try to do. Because, life has taught me when you act out of emotion, you oftentimes regret your actions. And so, but I didn't tell them, the people that were calling me, or even anyone else really, except for a select few people. I didn't tell them that I could see entities being sent to watch outside my window. And on a couple of occasions, I've managed to use the proper photo technology to record these entities. I didn't tell them that I could smell the demonic stench outside my house sometimes when I come home. But I do what I've got to do, rebuke it and come against it spiritually as I need to, etc. But I say all this to say, this is the level of fight that some of us are dealing with, that many of us, I'd venture to say, are dealing with. One telltale sign for me, I mean, the telltale signs were already there, but this one was very, very moving, if you will. One of the youth from that church got in touch with my kids, and they were concerned about me, which I thought was mighty strange because, I'm auntie to a lot of the kids, but, for someone to kind of contact my kids to ask about me said something wasn't, too kosher. And, my kids didn't go into a whole lot of detail as to what's been going on, just because I wasn't at a point of discussing publicly, and so they respect my wishes. But this youth, and I'm going to continue to refer to them as youth just so I don't tell the gender or anything like that, because I wouldn't want these people to try to attack this child in any way. But the youth said, that place be sending demons onto people. That place be sending demons onto people. This particular youth was angry. And in the anger, I realized I needed to make sure I kept it under wraps long enough for the anger to dissipate so that the young people would not do anything rash or take any action out of anger and frustration, out of emotion that would cause long-term problems for them in their lives. I worked and prayed and did all kinds of things to help these kids have hope for life when it looked like there was no hope, and to see outside the box of the four walls where they lived. And so I definitely didn't want them to throw their lives away being angry and taking action against someone in a way that would hurt them. So when I was positioned to protect my kids from any kind of bogus CPS cases or backlash or anything like that, I proceeded to push for the arrest. And then I learned the file was being held by a supervisor and thus could not be pulled or acted upon. And that carried on for months. By the time the file was released, an entire new narrative of events had been created, witnesses omitted, even the other police officers present were omitted from the reports. Things like that, just trying to create a new scenario that pretty much flipped the script. And without detailing all that has been and continues to be done, I will say these people have stopped at nothing to try to hide this story, to intimidate me from telling the story, to defame me in every way that they can, to block any and all contact with me in any way, internet, phones, emails, you name it, from friends and family around the world. And when you've got technology, a lot of stuff can be done. So I'll let you draw your conclusions from there. For the record, of course, I'll go ahead and put this out there since this seems to be one of those things. I'm not a drinker. I drink once a year for a particular event, but other than that, I'm not really a drinker. There was a spell when in my teens, in my 20s, I did drink and party and club and all of that. But those days long past. And then in my marriage, I did sip on whatever little fruity drink or whatever, being social out with my husband if we're at a particular event or something. But other than that, drinking, not my thing. Drugs, all of that, it's just not me. But the point is to get you guys to share what several people keep asking me to share, more specifically about some of the things that occurred, as well as to get you guys to understand the level of sacrifice, if you will, that people make. I'm seeing a lot of folk who speak out about things that they've experienced in the church, be denigrated, be ostracized, be targeted, beat down, whatever words you want to use to intimidate them to hide the story, to never share it, to never let it see the light of day, so to speak. And it's real. It's very real. I've seen internet scrubs to block even the videos that I'm doing now, and some of them have nothing to do with that church at all. Nothing to do with the entire experiences. It's just, other stuff. But internet scrubs to block these videos, to decrease viewership, playing with the numbers, internet scrubs just to erase anything positive that I've done in my life in all these years that I've been living. And for those of you who don't know the background, I've been an advocate for many, many years. I've been union rep at work. I've been on the front lines in rallies and protests, helping families to try to recover or regain their children when they were unjustly taken by CPS. I've integrated racist companies, being the first Black, the first female, etc., stuff like that. So just to highlight a few things, I usually don't tell that stuff just because I usually don't. It just, my actions should speak. If someone is interested, if they can watch my actions, my behavior, and the things that I participate in, then they should know my character. But I've seen the level of evil is 2 children were removed from their home on a CPS case. And apparently it turns out that it was done in my name, as with me as the anonymous reporter or tipper or caller or whatever, however it was done. And they even gave them my address, my physical home address. I guess they know CPS would contact me at some point. And, it just works out because that's how I got my black and white evidence about that particular situation. But this is the level that people will stoop to hide their misdeeds or to keep their little gravy train going, have some children removed and put into CPS, and then try to blame someone else because they want to discredit or defame me, but those children are being hurt. If you did a Google search right now of me, 99% of information is going to come up inaccurate. Public database search of me right now, 99% of the information is going to come up inaccurate. That's by design. That's intentional. I've always maintained, I never really put my personal information out. I've just maintained a level of privacy on the internet. But I've always maintained alternate contact methods, just so I could rule out the crazies or the kooks from the legitimate people and still maintain some level of contactability and safety and stuff. But, every alternative method that I have had in place for years has been erased and replaced with bogus info that will never be able to reach me. For example, if I used Cousin Joe's address as my address on all these public records and things like that, I don't necessarily live there. But if it's a convict who has now gotten out of jail and want to come back and try to throw his rap, as I've had occur, he ain't coming to my door. He's going to my cousin's door. And my cousin's going to field out who he is before he gives him my direct information. That sort of stuff. But you won't find a good address, phone number, or email to reach me. The addresses that's on like my license, my concealed carry license, my passport, my credit cards, my banking, none of those addresses will show in any public records or databases. And that's mighty odd because usually once addresses get put out, you guys should know once that stuff is out there, you can almost never erase it. It takes, someone to spend some good money to go through the trouble of erasing. But oddly, no halfway decent or halfway good or valid address is out there. It's all bogus stuff. Even my personal email, which is it's For those who know me, know my emails always have a personal meaning. Oh, I guess everybody's email has a personal meaning. And I've used that particular scheme or pattern for some time. Bogus email setup using that same exact pattern at a different domain. So it's probably sending out and receiving stuff allegedly in my name. I've seen some searches show me with a criminal background, a drug-related criminal background at that too. Well, you know what? My drug history is very limited. I've told my story before. I won't tell it again. But again, that's the level that people will stoop to discredit you as much as possible. I've seen massive financial problems for years, allegedly. So I thought it was strange when I saw that. And it's mighty strange that someone with financial training, a 750 credit score, debt-free, but I supposedly have these massive long-term financial problems. The two of those don't even go hand in hand. But if you don't know me, you would believe it because that's what's coming up on the searches. And you would just, dismiss me as a financial wreck or whatever the case may be. I've even seen where I allegedly have 4 foreclosures of property. 4 foreclosures. So, the goal is to destroy my excellent financial history. I wouldn't say excellent, my good financial history, my very good financial history. A host of employers that I've never worked for, never even heard of. But here's the kicker. Now, recently, in the last year or so, I've allegedly acquired several real estate properties in other states. One of them with a very, and when I say very high, I mean very high dollar value. If I own that property, yeah, I would sell it and be able to do some other things that I want to do. So, but again, I say this is twofold. It's for those who were pushing me to go into detail or more detail of what I experienced at that church or through that church. Although they may seek to distance themselves from the players, they are behind a lot of this and we know it. But the other purpose is to say to others, if you don't like me or my content, that's fine. You may have heard me say before, I don't tell anyone what to do. That's not my style unless you flat ask me for a specific directive, and I'll give my opinion of what that directive should be. But usually I put information out there so that you can think and make your own decisions. But what I want to say to you all is do not dismiss the information or the content because of what you may hear or read online about me. If I share it and it resonates with you, take the information and do what you need to do for you. Disregard the messenger. Disregard what you've heard about the messenger. Don't shoot yourself in the foot and not get the information you need to improve in whichever way you need to improve because it's been clouded by a smear campaign that's been waged against me. If it gets you to think, if the information is planting a seed, whether it's watering a seed that's already been planted, or if it's helping to grow the fruits of seeds that were planted previously, do what you've got to do. Separate the character assassinations about me and get your message so you can get what you need to get. I know I hold a wealth of information to help people, and I'm not going to let the evil of those people in their desire to keep their gravy train going by silencing me. That's not going to stop me from being a blessing to others. That's not my personality. I may get mad. I may be frustrated, as anyone will. But deep down inside, I'm going to share. I'm going to help. I'm going to be a blessing to someone else because I firmly believe our experiences are for us to share them with others. I'm not one of those people that's going to watch you sit on a train track and get run over by a train. If I see you on the track and I see the train is coming, I'm going to tell you to move. It's up to you whether you move or not, but I'm at least going to make the effort to tell you. So, and I also say, 99% of what I share, I have witnesses or black and white paper to back up what I say. If you've got a question about anything I've shared, if you feel you need proof for whatever reason, contact me. I'm more than happy to share it. I won't blankly just put stuff out on the internet because I just don't think that's the place for stuff. But if you feel you need to have proof of something, if you need to see the pictures of the injuries to my neck or my legs or, the copay, the receipt from where I copay to go to the doctor or anything like that, ask me. I know that place is pure evil, and the people that they're working with or that they're using, unsuspecting, they don't even realize it, I think, that there's some strong evil going on there. But I should have known because one of my children dreamt that place was on fire. The ground opened up and swallowed that place in flames whole. Some years back, she dreamt that. Another child dreamt that there was a big exposition, I guess you would say, and several of the leaders in that church, the masks that they were wearing came off, and they were demons and creatures up underneath those masks. My other daughter dreamt that. So I say all that to say, to use the term of another YouTuber, Caucasian male actually, and he speaks out very much against the organized church as well. And he used to be a pastor. His bottom line, the demons, aliens, and these church leaders are all working together, and they're not working in our benefit, whether you know it or not.